years after the Dred Scott case, an abolitionist named John Brown organized a plot to free Southern slaves through armed intervention. In order to secure sufficient weaponry, he led a raiding party of 13 whites and 5 blacks into the federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry, Virginia. Brown wrested control of the armory, killed the town's mayor, and seized several hostages before he was captured by federal authorities and hanged 2 months later. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. He opposed the expansion of slavery, and his victory threw the South into revolt. By March of 1861, 7 states, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Texas, had seceded from the Union to form a coalition they called the Confederate States of America. The Civil War began 1 month later when Confederate gunfire sounded over the federal stronghold of Fort Sumter in South Carolina.
In the water, children, wade in trouble in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Almost everyone has heard about the Underground Railroad. What many folks don't realize is that it was not a railroad at all. The Underground Railroad was an organized secret network of abolitionists and free blacks, lending their assistance in helping slaves find freedom. They offered runaway slaves a place to hide and to sleep during their journeys north to the free states. Many of these shelters were tunnels, sheds, and people's homes. The Underground Railroad began roughly around the 1820s and continued right up until the Civil War. Runaway slaves fled the southern states and risked everything for a better life in northern territories. Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Canada were the most popular places to live. The free blacks living in the north played the biggest part in the planning and execution of escapes. In most cases, slaves needed to find their way to the borders of the free states, and from there, the organized networks guided them to safe shelters where they could eat and sleep before heading further north. Even though runaway slaves made it to a free state, they still were not guaranteed freedom. However, northern states created stronger personal liberty laws, making it increasingly difficult for slave owners to recover their escaped slaves. In 1793, and again in 1850, a set of laws were passed by Congress known as the Fugitive Slave Laws. These laws guaranteed a slave owner that if his slave was captured in the North, that slave would be returned to him. Many slave hunters began chasing runaways into the North and along the Underground Railroad routes. Legend has it that the Underground Railroad got its name when a fugitive slave suddenly vanished while being hunted by slave chasers. One of the slave chasers commented, "He must have gone on an underground road." Soon after, the network of abolitionists and free blacks referred to those who provided aid and shelter as station masters or conductors. Homes and hideouts were called stations and depots. Runaways began using terms like catching the next train when they talked about escaping, Northerners would be told to expect packages or freights. One of the most popular conductors of the Underground Railroad was Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born around 1821 and lived as a slave in the South until 1849, when she escaped to freedom. She made it safely to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and learned of the Underground Railroad. Tubman returned to the southern states to rescue as many slaves as she could, at great risk to her own life. She helped roughly 300 slaves gain their freedom by leading them to the northern states. Harriet became known as the Moses of her people. Tubman was a tough woman who threatened tired and exhausted slaves with a loaded pistol in order to keep them moving. The president of the Underground Railroad was Levi Coffin. Levi Coffin helped almost 5,000 runaways gain their freedom. He hid slaves in his home for over 21 years. His home was known as the Grand Central Station of the Underground Railroad. The secret network of houses and routes the slaves used to find freedom were known through songs. The song, "Follow the Drinking Gourd," was really a hidden message that gave fugitives directions on which way to head to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. The riverbank makes a very good road. The dead trees will show you the way. Left foot, peg foot, traveling on, following the drinking gourd. The drinking gourd was another term for the Big Dipper. The tip of the Big Dipper always points to the North Star, telling runaways which direction they should head.
Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd. The old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd.
When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd. The old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd.
The riverbank would make a mighty good road.
Dead trees will show you the way.
Left foot, peg foot, travel